ground seems to erupt as a predator bursts from the darkness, claws cutting through the air, its target suddenly trapped with no clear escape. From the brush, another rival emerges, a body heavy and forceful, the collision landing with enough impact to disrupt the surrounding space. Growls, sharp calls, and rapid movement fill the moment, each exchange driven by survival instinct, without hesitation or mercy. Dust rises, instinct surges to its peak, and only one question remains. Which presence will still be standing when the moment passes? The North American bobcat is one of the most adaptable wildcats on the continent. With a moderate body size, it moves with agility while retaining enough strength to control and defend its territory. Powerful hind legs produce short, precise leaps, combined with exceptionally sharp hearing that allows prey to be detected even beneath a thin layer of snow. This quiet presence plays a vital role in maintaining the fragile balance of the North American wilderness. Across the same forested mountain ranges of North America, one dominant predator stands above the rest, the mountain lion. With an average weight of about 170 pounds, this cat weighs more than 4 times as much as the bobcat, occupying the top tier of the predator hierarchy and controlling vast territorial ranges. Although their prey does not completely overlap, the two species share a degree of ecological space, ensuring that competitive pressure is always present. Faced with a clear disadvantage in size, the bobcat does not choose direct confrontation. Instead, it relies on agility, terrain awareness, and flexible avoidance. It constantly changes direction, maintains a safe distance, and uses rocks and dense vegetation to withdraw when necessary. In the ongoing struggle for survival, predators rarely meet face to face, yet quiet competition over space and food continues to shape their behavior. At times, this balance is further disturbed by unexpected encounters with wolves. Against a pack-based predator adapted to open terrain, the bobcat typically keeps its distance, displaying enough alertness to prompt the opponent to reconsider and move away, avoiding unnecessary conflict. This ability to know when to advance and when to stop is what has made the bobcat a master of prudence in the wild. The greatest threat to a bobcat does not always come from another predator, but sometimes from its own kind. Each adult individual controls a territory that can span up to 40 square miles, an area directly tied to food sources, shelter, and breeding opportunities. When these invisible boundaries are crossed, avoidance gradually gives way to confrontation. Bobcats live solitary lives, but during the breeding season, encounters between two males are nearly unavoidable. Low growls carry at close range, sometimes from high branches, other times from ground level. The confrontation is brief, intense and carefully measured. Two individuals weighing around 35 pounds circle within a confined space, closing in to assess strength, endurance, and the resolve of the opponent. Unlike hunting, conflicts between members of the same species rarely last long. The energy cost is high, and even a minor injury can directly affect survival. As a result, most disputes end when one individual accepts the disadvantage and withdraws. Bobcats do not seek to eliminate rivals. They establish boundaries and know when to stop. It is this restraint that helps maintain the fragile balance of the North American wilderness. After repeated encounters and competition with other predators, the bobcat is forced to maintain a flexible diet that shifts with the seasons and circumstances. From small terrestrial mammals to waterfowl, fish, or reptiles when opportunities arise, every choice serves a single objective: sustaining enough energy to survive. Rabbits are the preferred prey, providing a stable food source year-round and forming the core of the bobcat's diet, accounting for roughly 70% of its intake. On thin snow or in open woodland, the bobcat lowers its body and moves almost silently, aided by thick paw pads and retractable claws. Rabbits are highly alert and capable of sudden bursts of speed, forcing the bobcat to commit all its strength to short accelerations that can approach 30 miles per hour in brief moments. As a result, chases rarely last long. When tracking prey near rocky ledges or natural shelters, the black tufted ears constantly rotate, picking up faint vibrations beneath dry leaves or light snow cover. The bobcat does not rush. Each step is calculated to conserve energy. When the moment is right, the body compresses and launches into a leap that can exceed 10 feet. Success delivers essential energy, allowing the bobcat to endure cold nights and maintain steady survival throughout the winter. Deer are not regular prey for a bobcat. Only during periods of food scarcity, or when encountering a fawn or a weakened individual, does the bobcat take advantage of this rare opportunity. The significant difference in size forces it to rely entirely on surprise and concealed terrain. Such attempts unfold within a very short window, resembling a survival gamble. Even without injury, a failed approach can leave the bobcat in a serious energy deficit. For this reason, it must act with near-perfect precision, as even a small miscalculation can push the body beyond its limits. When rabbit numbers decline, the bobcat continues to adjust its strategy. In marshlands or still water environments, it may shift to hunting small waterfowl, such as wild ducks. The bobcat crawls low to the ground, approaches in silence, and waits for a moment of inattention before launching a fast, decisive, close-range strike. At other times, small rodents such as mice become an important alternative food source. These hunts are quick and require minimal energy, sufficient to sustain basic activity. Not every attempt is successful, but during periods of scarcity, these brief opportunities often determine the line between endurance and exhaustion. Across the frozen grasslands of North America, bison stand firm like living fortresses. With body weights that can exceed 1,500 pounds, thick muscle mass, and a tendency to maintain tight formations, their strength does not come from speed, but from the ability to withstand pressure. Each individual is part of a collective defensive mass, making any approach inherently risky. Facing this concentration of power is the gray wolf, a predator that relies on pack intelligence. Wolves observe from a distance, test reactions, and patiently search for signs of vulnerability, especially among younger individuals or those that drift away from the herd. Most of the time, this tension ends without direct contact. Between wolves and bison, the grassland reveals two opposing paths to survival: raw physical strength and collective intelligence. It is this fragile balance that allows the North American ecosystem to remain in motion. Grizzly bears stand as one of the largest and most powerful land animals. With massive skeletal frames, heavily developed shoulder muscles, and long claws on the forelimbs used for digging and control, grizzly bears possess the strength to dominate vast territories. A fully grown individual can weigh over 700 pounds, making its presence an overwhelming signal within the ecosystem. Rather than relying on speed or surprise, grizzly bears follow a survival strategy built on endurance and an extremely flexible diet. Migrating salmon, small ground-dwelling animals, leftover food sources, and even vegetation are all utilized to accumulate energy. Every behavior serves a long-term objective, enduring the harsh winter ahead. For grizzly bears, the greatest threat does not come from other species, but from their own kind. As resources become limited, encounters grow tense and cautious. In the North American wilderness, grizzly bears dominate not through subtlety, but through time, strength, and the ability to secure and hold resources. The honey badger charges into the hunt without scouting first, as if fear has never existed in its survival dictionary. That small body carries a stubborn kind of power, ready to stand up to the most formidable ambush hunters of the savanna. Every step closer is a direct challenge, where reaction speed and nerve are pushed to the limit. So what makes a small animal capable of forcing an entire savanna to stay cautious? On the savanna, the lion is a symbol of pure pressure. One step forward can make many species hesitate and back away. But the honey badger does not see a king. It sees an opponent that must be pushed back through sheer boldness. When facing a lion, the honey badger does not rush straight in. It keeps changing direction to avoid exposing a weak angle. Step forward, stop, then cut sideways without warning. The pattern becomes hard to read, forcing the lion to slow down and reset. Thick, loose skin lets the honey badger twist and pivot with surprising flexibility, sometimes startling the lion in the process. Even when several lions move closer, the honey badger still refuses to retreat. It raises its coat and lets out a harsh warning call. A single honey badger can keep up this intensity for hours without tiring. That attitude builds a psychological barrier, leaving the lions unsettled, unable to understand why such a small animal dares to challenge them. Irritation grows over time, and the defensive odor adds to the discomfort until the lions lose interest. In the end, they pause and choose to move away. In nature, some confrontations do not need a winner, only enough trouble to make them not worth continuing. And the honey badger, the animal that does not recognize fear, is often the one that keeps the initiative. In the wild, honey is a dense, high-energy reward, and it is rarely free. Reaching that resource is not blind recklessness, but a carefully calculated mission. For the honey badger, spatial memory works like a living map, letting it remember the exact location of a hive for months and return with ease. When the air turns cooler, the raid begins. The honey badger uses its powerful front legs to dig into hollow tree trunks, creating an entry path without rushing straight into the main guard line. Instantly, the bees respond with a collective biological defense system, piling on pressure with intensely painful stings. This is where skin, about 0.25 inches thick, matters, helping it endure far better. In just a few well-timed seconds, it reaches the most energy-rich honey. What stands out is that it does not get greedy. It does not linger or stay too long. It collects only the best part, then slips back into the brush. The key to success is not only endurance, but the ability to optimize time. Nature has given the honey badger a set of rare biological gifts. Those advantages shape one of the savanna's most fearless and unpredictable survivors. This time, the honey badger turns its attention to a massive South African oryx, with straight horns like blades, often close to 47 inches long. With just one mistimed approach, the oryx snaps into a powerful defensive response. But for the honey badger, that is not necessarily failure. It is more like a quick test to read the opponent's speed and blind spots. And once it understands the rhythm of that reaction, it is ready to push the challenge to the limit. At only about 30 pounds, the honey badger will even move in close to an African elephant that can weigh up to 13,000 pounds. It does not try to overpower the giant. Instead, it creates disruption and forces the opponent to lose focus. Each forceful shove can send it sliding a few feet, but its flexible body and thick skin help soften the impact and allow it to get back up almost immediately. The message becomes clear. Sometimes extreme boldness, fast recovery, and perfectly timed reflexes are enough to make even a massive opponent rethink the distance. In the brush, cobras and vipers lie hidden like reflex machines. They carry potent venom, and an attack in 0.3 seconds can also project venom out to about 8 feet, enough to frighten most animals. But for the honey badger, this is simply another test of nerve and adaptability. As the honey badger moves in, the snake immediately climbs a tree to avoid being cornered. But the honey badger is also a master climber. The pressure rises fast, the snake loses its grip, and it drops to the ground. The honey badger reads the landing point, closes the distance in an instant, and the snake is quickly forced into a losing position. What makes this hunter truly stand out is its natural resistance to venom. Even if it is affected by part of a dose, the honey badger's nervous system can recover in about 1 to 2 hours. That window is like a short sleep to regain strength. Then it gets back up, continues the pursuit, and finishes dealing with what remains. The leopard is a big cat known for sharp intelligence, masterful camouflage, and formidable strength. It hunts with absolute patience, stalking in near silence. But hunger does not always allow it to choose an easy target. And then the honey badger appears, forcing every cold calculation to change. The encounter quickly tightens as the savanna's most unruly fighter takes only a light scrape on the leg. But for the leopard, it looks like an opening. The leopard keeps shifting its angle of approach, trying to exploit that weak spot with probing strikes. The honey badger reacts with fierce resistance, twisting and turning non-stop to break free from control. In the end, the leopard fails to gain the advantage it expected. Elsewhere in the brush, a young leopard, still inexperienced, creeps toward a juvenile that has strayed from its mother. A distress call flashes out in an instant. One decisive rush and a perfectly timed check leave the predator with no room to continue. Within seconds, that patch of cover becomes a no-go zone the leopard will not risk again. It becomes a costly lesson about limits and about the kind of calculated risk a leopard must learn before it can truly grow into its role. Across the African savanna, hyenas move like greedy ghosts, holding their power through harsh pack tactics. With bite force strong enough to break through tough material, a group of 3 to 10 hyenas can overwhelm even the largest targets, yet they often pause with careful calculation when a honey badger stands its ground. As the circle tightens and rough, laughing calls echo around the brush. The honey badger shows the attitude of an animal that refuses to be intimidated, backed by a sharp, pungent odor released from its defensive glands. Its thick, shaggy coat adds another layer of protection, letting it brace and defend with relentless intensity. Hyenas, practical hunters by nature, quickly solve the survival equation. The small amount of modest payoff from such a tiny animal is not worth the trade-off. The standoff often ends in a heavy, respectful silence as the pack spreads out and gives way, allowing the king without a crown of reckless courage to continue its solitary journey. A tortoise is often seen as a fortress that is hard to break through, thanks to a shell as tough as armor. Even though it moves slowly and steadily, very few predators can overpower it. It does not only hunt by chance, it can also track the trail of a feast after wild dogs move on. The honey badger appears quietly, gathers the high-energy leftovers, and slips away fast. Instead of relying on brute force, it uses a technical approach, trying to flip the tortoise onto its back to expose the softer underside. With strong jaws and near limitless persistence, it works along the shell's edge near the legs, tail, or neck, until it opens a gap large enough to get access to the inside. When facing a large leopard tortoise, the honey badger uses its front limbs, with claws longer than 2 inches, focusing on scraping and breaking the weakest connections. Rather than trying to crush the entire shell like many other predators, the honey badger chooses anatomical intelligence to find the exact weak point. And in the end, even a solid shield has to give ground to the savanna's most relentless survivor. From the silent bobcat to bears, wolves, and bison, the North American wilderness persists through a fragile balance between power and limitation. Every encounter becomes a harsh test of survival, where only those that adapt earn the right to continue. For those who wish to keep following these authentic stories, like and subscribe, because in the wild, survival itself is the ultimate art.